o'clock having arrived, I'd like to call to order the engineering committee meeting for May the 23rd. Is it necessary to read the public comments?
No, and we don't have any
Okay.
outside comments, so you can probably skip that.
Very good. And there's no public comment, I don't believe?
No, sir.
Very good. Items of discussion. Item number 1, City of San Marcos Creek Project update.
Yes, thank you, Director Hernandez. So as the committee is aware of, the City of San Marcos has a large infrastructure improvement project. Within that, a small portion relatively for the city project, but still a fairly large project for Vallecitos, is a lot of infrastructure that's within the creek. Today we're going to give you an update on that, so I'll hand it over to the engineering team.
All right, thank you, AGM Gumpel. Yeah, so the last time this item was brought before the committee was August of last year. City's made a lot of progress. We think we see the light at the end of the tunnel this this calendar year, and Senior Engineer Lopez will give us an update.
Good afternoon, Engineering and Equipment Committee. As Jason mentioned, I am here to provide an informational update for the City of San Marcos's Creek District project. So this graphic shows the limits of the Creek District project. Project's located south of San Marcos Boulevard, north of Discovery Street, with Discovery Street to the west, and it goes about up to Bent Avenue to the east. Construction of the project began in January 2020, and estimated completion is fall of 2023. That could go a little bit longer depending on how the rest of the project goes. The district is reimbursing the city to have their contractor relocate and upsize district facilities. So what the contractors completed so far, in Bent Avenue, existing sewer has been removed. New 18-inch sewer and a 30-inch steel casing has been installed. That sewer spans the whole creek. Existing water has been removed, and new 12-inch water in Craven Road has been installed, and new 8-inch water in Bent Avenue north of the new bridge that the contractor built has been installed, and those are both connected and tied into our system. In Discovery Street, along the southern edge of the project, existing water has been removed, new 12-inch PVC water has been installed, and that is currently tied in and connected with our system as well. So currently the contractor is primarily working on our facilities in Via Veracruz. Existing water, 8-inch sewer has been abandoned, and existing 6-inch and 14-inch water has been removed. New 10-inch sewer and an 18-inch steel casing has also been installed. That also spans the entire creek. And currently the contractor is working on installing new 12-inch and 16-inch water in Via Veracruz. The photo here shown is the 4-valve cluster in San Marcos Boulevard at Via Veracruz that was recently replaced. So at the end of April, the contractor performed this work. It was a 12-hour shutdown of San Marcos Boulevard from Las Posas to Bent Avenue, which impacted about 50 customers, most of them being businesses. So work was performed on a Sunday night to have the least impact to those businesses. The city's public relations team helped with the public outreach to those customers, and that was successful. Our customer service department only received, from what I heard, 2 phone calls with questions from customers about the shutdown. This is the photo of those new valves being installed, and the work was successful and the water was turned on in less than 12 hours. This is a current photo from last week of the new Via Veracruz bridge. It's looking north towards San Marcos Boulevard. The new 16-inch water main is currently installed through the bridge, and the contractor's laying pipe north of the bridge. Contractor's currently also installing new 12-inch PVC water north of the bridge as well. So to provide just some context of the size of this project, our team recently reviewed RFI 946. We haven't reviewed all those RFIs as they weren't related all to us. Most of them are for the city. But there's been quite a few RFIs our team's reviewed on this project. So I would like to say that our inspection staff and development services staff working on this project's been coordinating and closely and working well together to try to get these RFIs reviewed timely to keep the contractor work moving forward. Total anticipated reimbursement costs from the district to the city for their contractor performing this work for us is about $3.8 million.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out, so when you look at that 3.8 million, so that was budgeted for this fiscal year to be expensed, but because of delays to the project, related to the contractor and just all the coordination, and also just resolving some billing issues with the city, this is all going to be carried forward into the next fiscal year. So when you look at that, $30.3 million capital project, 4.3 of it is this project. So it's that 3.8 for the reimbursement, and of course, all of the staff time that Elizabeth mentioned with her staff and the inspection. So that's a big chunk of the next year's capital budget that is going to come to a conclusion because the city's going to finish the project. So just wanted to point that out to you.
I heard from our inspector, we have 2 more RFIs getting submitted this afternoon. We get to review tomorrow. So it takes a village to get us through a project this size. But that item was for information only. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, the water line, new bridge, is that within a cell of the bridge?
Yes.
And so there's access manways to get to it and all that?
Yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
900 RFIs.
946 last we received.
And counting.
And counting.
I think they're shooting for over 1,000 before the job's done.
Easily.
Lord have mercy. Okay, very good. I don't hear any other questions, so let's move on. Item number 2, fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement program update.
Yes, thank you. So for the committee, as you're aware, that we bring the capital improvement projects to the committee every quarter. So every quarter you get the capital improvement updates on specific projects that are actually highlighted, but everything is actually available to look at, and our team will be going over a quarterly update. Along with that, though, at the fiscal year end, the first quarter after that, then you get the year end update. So this is just a regular quarterly update that will be going over, and the presentation will actually cover item 2 and item 3. So with that, I'll hand it over to our staff here.
Yeah, thank you, James. So yeah, Senior Engineer Morgan is going to cover this item. It is item 2 and 3. So item 2 is just for information, and then item 2 we will be looking for committee support. So item 3, yes, correct.
Thank you, District Engineer Hubbard. Good afternoon, Directors Hernandez and Elitharp. As mentioned, I'm going to first be covering the fiscal year 22-23 CIP quarter 3 update, followed by item 3 on the agenda, which is going to be overall CIP update at our Meadowlark Reclamation Facility with the projects listed before you. Getting right into item 2, the capital improvements projects update, I'm going to navigate to our website for this portion. And just to remind the directors how to get to this page, if you come to the district's website and you scroll to departments here, you hover over it, come down to engineering, go to capital facilities. If you navigate to capital facilities, it's this link right here, active capital improvement projects. Click there. You get to this interactive map with the thumbnails. You can click individual thumbnails representing each project. Or if you prefer to see it in a list form, you come here to CIP project information, and those same projects will be listed in list form. And one I'm going to highlight today is the 16-inch emergency bypass pipeline rehabilitation. This is a priority project operationally for the district. It's under construction right now, and we're about to perform some tie-ins to our downstream land outfall pipeline. Work is proceeding nicely. We've performed some manhole excavations and access pit excavations to give us access to perform the trenchless rehabilitation of the 16-inch fail-safe emergency bypass pipeline, and also the 12-inch diameter fail-safe pipeline that's just parallel to it. As work's completing, we do expect it to be complete by the end of summer or September of this year. Another highlighted project I'd like to go over is the Montiel lift station and force main replacement project. Directors have seen this project come before the board several times. We are through final design. We've prepared the bid package. We went out to bid one time already. We got one bid back, and it was non-competitive, therefore we rejected the bid. We learned some lessons in that endeavor. The contractors were largely in favor of doing either the site improvements of the lift station replacement or the linear work of the force main and gravity rehab. So what we've done is we've been working to separate out the projects into two projects and rebidding them. The force main and linear improvements are actually out to bid now, and we're going to release advertisement for the site improvements, probably, if not by the end of this week, it'll be early next week. So those are moving forward still, and we expect to have at least the force main project be awarded the second meeting of June, if all goes well. And then that'll be followed by the lift station improvements.
Is the lift station an above-ground building?
It's going to be a full replacement of the underground and above ground. So it's going to be a full demolition, excavation of the existing lift station. We're going to construct a new wet well that's approximately 35 feet deep, pretty big excavation. And then the above grade facilities, including the electrical control room. There's going to be a restroom on site and SCADA and telemetry improvements.
So quite a bit different than the linear.
Yes, quite a bit different. It requires a mechanical team of contract team to do the work, and that's either within or not within some of our preferred contractors that are used to doing linear work. It's kind of catering to a different subset of contractors. That's the two updates I have, unless you want to go over anything else. I'm gonna
Yeah, I
turn
just
over
wanted to
Jason.
point out that, as you know, we've got tactical plan initiatives. GM's going to report out at the end of this fiscal year how those initiatives were met. These two particular projects that Ryan mentioned are on the list, and we've actually made some really good headway on a number of milestones. But the bypass project, which is currently in construction, of course, we experienced a lot of rain, excessive rain this winter, so understandably that project has been delayed. So we're not as far along as we'd like on our tactical initiative for that project. Similarly with Montiel, the fact that we had to take it out, got a non-competitive bid, have to rebid it, split it, again, that project is experiencing delays, so we're not going to have, we're not as far along, on our initiative as we want to. Also, there's a budget component to that. So there's money that was expected to be spent that is now being carried forward. So again, when you look at that, $30.3 million budget, about $5 million of it is money with these two particular projects that were expected to be spent that are getting carried forward. So the train's left the station, that money's gonna get spent, it's just not as soon as we wanted to. So just wanted to point that out to the directors.
Yeah, with that, the board members have already been shown the existing capital budget, and it does have the split in the Montiel project already incorporated in it. So there's no change in that. So what you've seen in the budget is being represented by what the staff is presenting here.
On the bypass project and I guess the fail-safe too, what's the in-place liner product? Is it in situ form? Or did you specify this particular brand?
It's a pressure grade brand of CIPP liner or in situ form, but it's a pressure liner with end seals. So
other products can be used if they meet the spec?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
it's not specific to in
Okay.
situ form, yeah, correct.
The performance spec.
Okay, thanks.
that's correct. That concludes item 2. If there are any other questions, we'll move on to item 3.
Move on.
Okay. Item 3 is just to remind the directors how active Meadowlark has been this fiscal year. This exhibit kind of shows the various projects that have been either in design or in construction at one point in time throughout this fiscal year. And just to provide a quick update, wanted to start at the Tesla battery energy storage system retaining wall. This improvement project provided the site improvements and drainage improvements to host the future Tesla power pack that's going to be installed along the new line, new fence line, wall line that's right here. There's going to be new Tesla batteries right in front of this wall right here. This is the before picture showing the existing condition, and we cut into this hillside and pushed this wall back by about 6 feet into the hillside and constructed this new wall to really provide operational benefit with layout, not encroaching into their work zone with the new batteries. Construction started on this one in November of 2022, and it just completed in May. We had one change order which did not exceed 5% of the original contract value, and that was for excess rock excavation that was encountered during construction. For the fiscal impact, we had a $290,000 budget. We performed construction and professional design services, including staff services and overhead, for $254,000, which ended up giving us a $35,000 budget surplus. We are seeking equipment and engineering committee support for this project, and we plan to bring acceptance forward to the board on the June 7th meeting. The next project is the tertiary rehab, structural rehab and repairs improvement project. The scope of this project really included 8 primary improvements, all of which are listed here before you, to the primarily the basins 1 and 2, and also the installation of 6 18-inch diameter butterfly valves, replacing what was existing and kind of deteriorated, and also the replacement of the existing air line, the stainless steel 3-inch diameter air line. Due to rain events and some delays encountered in the materials procurement process, the influent channel surface prep blasting and coating was the only item that we were not able to accommodate. We weren't able to get to this due to the risk of spilling at the plant and bypass pumping being a risk during some of those atmospheric rivers we were encountering. So we kind of just ran out of time, and then with that, flows were ramping up at Metal Arc, and we kind of lost our window of opportunity with that. That being said, we do plan on coming back to finish that work in the future, and we're tracking that. The contract was awarded on tertiary rehab in January of 2022. Notice proceed in July of 2022. We parsed it out into 2 phases. Phase 2 just recently completed in April of 23. The total combined calendar days of work was 140. As mentioned, 7 of the 8 deficiencies were corrected. And we plan on coming back during the shutdown, the tertiary process shutdown for the CCT expansion project, and performing that last bit of work during that shutdown, because we'll have that window back. Fiscal impact, due to the credit we received, we had just over $1.1 million budget on this one, with a construction contract of $773,000. One change order credit due to that not requiring any bypass pumping, not coating the influent channel. All out the door, it was $627,000, resulting in a surplus of almost $480,000. This project was completed 100% with in-house planning, design, bid, and construction phase services. We did not have any consultants on board with this one. And similar to the Tesla BESS project, staff is seeking committee support for project acceptance on the June 7th board meeting as well.
So, really quick, for the committee, why don't we stop here and see if you have any questions on these 2 projects, because staff is requesting committee support to move forward the board.
Very good.
On these 2, so if there's any questions on
Yes.
Yeah, just a question on this. You have a budget surplus, will that be used for the channel rehab later on with a separate project?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, yes. It will, again.
And is that enough in the future?
You'll be budgeted completely separately, so it'll be rolled into the larger CCT expansion
Oh,
project,
gotcha. Okay.
and staff will go over that project, and that project still has a little bit of time. Once the due date, I know that you guys are going to cover that for the CCT.
Yeah, we'll cover it here shortly, but that influent chamber, the rehab, it's a separate standalone project we've kind of carved out, so it's included in the new fiscal year, so you can see it.
All right,
Well, I certainly support the project acceptance.
absolutely, yes.
Great.
Any questions on the retaining wall project?
No, no,
These last two updates are for informational purposes only. Chlorine contact tank expansion. This project has a proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget next fiscal year of just short of $10 million. This project aims to add a new third chlorine contact tank to the existing two that are at Meadowlark. It's going to increase the volume of the chlorine contact tanks by 110,000 gallons for a total of about 422,000 gallons in total. This is going to increase the capacity at Meadowlark to 6.5 million gallons per day of peak flow. This project is provided with grant funding through the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and also State of California grant funds. Therefore, that is kind of a project driver on this project moving forward. The figure here is just a flow schematic of the proposed north tank that's going to be just adjacent to the existing two east and west tanks at Meadowlark. We're currently in design phase. We've wrapped up the preliminary design report. We have moved into 60% design, which is currently ongoing. We anticipate final design to be complete by January of 2024. And as part of the conditions of the USBR grant funding, we will have construction completed by September of 2025.
And I just want to point out that 9.7, that's the total project. So we're not planning to spend that 9.7 next year, but that's the total project, so.
Were we able to do all that design in-house?
We have a consultant on board for this one. This is going to be a large, heavy civil project with a large structural element to it. The retaining wall that's not shown in the schematic, but it's going to be bordering the north tank on the north side. It's going to be retaining a roadway, an access roadway that exists today at Meadowlark. So it's going to be a larger design effort that goes beyond our resources here.
Yeah, if you can picture yourself standing on Tertiary Row, down there at the plant,
Yeah.
with the CCTs, to your left, that road's gonna get narrower. All those utilities need to get relocated. So there's gonna be some substantial work, not to mention just the operational, impacts that they're gonna have to deal with, so.
Unless you guys are going to cover it, I don't want to steal your thunder. We've secured about 25% of the funding so far on that.
Yeah, so 2.4 million has been awarded to us by USBR. And we will bill out every 6 months whatever we've expensed. Initially, of course, just staff time and design costs for our consultant, but then eventually we're gonna get into those bigger, construction dollars. But we have that opportunity twice a calendar year to bill out and get reimbursed. And it takes about 4 or 5 months.
Are you expecting, is 2.4 the total, are you expecting more? Or?
Yeah, there's another, I guess,
600,000.
State.
well, there's another 30 million that's available, I believe, that the North County Water
Yeah,
Use Coalition is gonna go after.
But the most we could get for this project is 25% from the federal, and then we'll be seeking whatever opportunities from the state we can, but the state money's kind of dried up at this point. So if the state money becomes available, we'll be trying to leverage this project to get more state funding. At the end of the day, I think the best we can do is maybe get 50% of it covered, and that's being really optimistic. Somewhere around 30-35% is probably more realistic.
Lastly, for the update, the conversion of sodium hypochlorite to replace the existing chlorine gas disinfection process at Meadowlark. This is, again, another operational priority project we are moving forward with. This project seeks to replace the chemical building shown on the southwest corner of Meadowlark there and replace the chlorine gas with bulk storage and injection of 12.5% sodium hypochlorite solution at the 3 injection points shown before you on the schematic. What we've been doing to move the ball on this project recently is we've taken the PDR design, we've received the 60% design, and we basically are sitting on it and we're reviewing it, but we wanted to see we wanted to see this process in the field, not actual use of it, taking the theoretical and turning it into actual. So what you see here is in the blue is a pump skid with 2 peristaltic pumps, valves, flow meters, appurtenances to pump the sodium hypochlorite out of the black 1,000-gallon storage tank that's right next to it. And the process piping was all installed in-house by our mech tech of the year, Dale Austin. He was instrumental in providing the plumbing for the proof of concept pilot facility, as we're calling this. We performed a first round of testing on April 6th and 7th. We also performed the second round on May 11th and 12th, and we are planning to do a third round either in June or July. That's to be scheduled. The first 2 rounds were a big success. We were actually able to pull some real-time data from our testing. The dosing, which you can see in this blue line right here of sodium hypochlorite, showed a direct correlation to the CCT influent and effluent residual. So the influent residual is in red. As you can see, as our dosing drops in milligrams per liter, it takes a little bit of lag time to get through the effluent to the effluent, but you see that the residuals are responding accordingly. And so over the first 2 rounds of testing on the April 6th and 7th date, the main conclusions we pulled out of that were when we're dosing between 25 to 35 milligrams per liter, we were okay. On day 2, we took that down to 20 to 25 to test it, and that ended up being okay. But once we dropped down below 20, kind of got in that 15 to 20 range, it was starting to get to the point where we're about to violate. So we were, and the second round of testing, we took that a little bit further to kind of stress test the system to see really how Metal Arc would react. And the cool thing is, as we move forward with the third round later in the summer, that's going to be the real test. We're going to be under a high flow scenario with hot temperatures, hopefully, where the biology is a little bit tricky. And this green line down here is really one we're paying close attention to, and that's the total coliforms. We want to keep that low. And throughout the first 2 rounds of testing, we were able to do that. So very good actual test results coming out of it, moving us closer to final design. One thing that working with operations and engineering together, we've come to the realization that we'd like to turn this pilot facility into a temporary facility that can facilitate the timely removal of chlorine gas, even though this project has slipped in behind the CCT expansion project, and it'll be a year or 2 or 3 before we can get moving on this one. We still have the means to provide and build a temporary facility that has, say, a 3 to 5 year operational timeline, and ultimately it'll get demolished after the permanent facility is started up, say 5 years from today. This will provide process redundancy and as I mentioned, the timely decommissioning of chlorine gas, which is a main driver for operations and management. This will be coming forward in the future to the board in the form of a professional services agreement amendment for our CCT design engineer, who will take on that design and actually provide the temporary facility, which will include sodium hypochlorite injection and coagulant injection, which has to be relocated to accommodate chemical deliveries during the CCT expansion construction. As the CCT expansion is the first priority, we don't want to steal any of the thunder from the sodium hypochlorite conversion, as it is an important priority project. We feel this is a good way to accomplish both objectives there.
And Ryan, just to clarify, the prioritization of the CCT expansion is strictly due to the fact that the grant funding has a deadline. So we want to basically accommodate 2 things, is to meet that grant funding deadline to get that $2.whatever million, and also get rid of chlorine gas at the same time, so this way staff wouldn't be living with that.
That's correct.
So is this pilot facility big enough to handle everything?
This facility is big enough to handle everything for about probably about 2.5 days at like our summertime peak flow. Because of the 1,000-gallon storage tank, we would have to refill that about every 2 days. And so ideally, we're gonna procure a larger tank,
Oh, gotcha.
and we're gonna repurpose it, salvage it, and relocate it to the permanent facility. So we will procure the tank, and that tank will be used again in the permanent facility. It's a bit of a win-win in that regard.
The proof of concept testing this summer is really, as Senior Engineer Morgan indicated, that's gonna be the real test of the system with the biology and the worst case scenario with the heat. So this way we'll actually figure out what size facility we need.
So is there, I assume there's disinfection facilities up at Mar Reservoir for system for distribution?
Yeah, we have a on-site sodium hypochlorite production, but it's really a Band-Aid at the system because of the heat, the potential for algae blooms. So we have several systems at Mar to help keep the algae under control. But again, it's really kind of a Band-Aid system. Most of the chlorine needs to be injected here, but
Well, this is for virus and pathogen removal.
Yes.
It's part of the treatment process.
yes, that's correct. And really, it's just a booster system at Mar.
So are there plans to upgrade the system at Mar?
Mar's been a continual challenge. We're doing the different avenues of lake management. The biggest thing that we've done really is to help keep the algae blooms down with the algae sonics that has been put in there. And we're actually working, hopefully, with our customers to see about future solutions.
And this was an informational item. In summary, the Tesla BESS retaining wall project, we're going to seek support for acceptance on June 7th. Similar to MRF tertiary structural rehab and repairs project, seeking committee support for acceptance on June 7th. Chlorine contact tank expansion project was presented as informational, as was the conversion to sodium hypochlorite project. And if there are any other questions, we can take those at this time.
Just one more. I think I've asked this before, but on the Tesla battery, that's totally just emergency backup. It wasn't for load shifting.
Yeah, actually, we're gonna cover that in item, in our next, in item number 5, but yes. It will do peak shaving,
Okay,
yeah, as well.
Very good.
good.
Okay.
All right, item number 4.
Thank you.
All right, while they get set up here, item number 4, as you know, the district has moved forward with full asset management, and part of it is the asset management plan, which has been now underway, and staff is coming back to give an update on that. The committee may remember we procured or hired Black & Veatch to do our asset management plan, and I don't remember the dates, I'm sure they'll tell you, but they've been working pretty diligently. We've had a couple workshops with staff, working with operations, and going through several options of it. And so today, there's going to be an update on the asset management plan. I'll hand it over to staff to give you the update.
Yeah, thank you, AGM Compel. Yeah, we've been working pretty diligently since the last time we gave you an update. This is actually a tactical initiative as well. So the goal is to get a draft report submitted to staff by the end of the fiscal year, and I think we're going to meet that. So I'll let Supervisor Bennett give you the update.
Good afternoon, Engineering Equipment Committee. This portion of this quarter's meeting will be to provide a brief update on the development of asset management plan for the district. First, we will First, we will review the goal of an asset management plan, and as I'm sure a lot of us can recall, this goal here, which is to facilitate infrastructure that is reliable, proactively maintained, adequately funded, and anticipates future demand. And this is partly accomplished by optimizing asset life cycles, which includes minimizing costs while maximizing output and justifying those costs associated for each asset as well. And again, as you probably remember this slide as well, this slide depicts the development process of the asset management plan as proposed by our consultant Black & Veatch. And we have been going through these tasks one by one, each leading up to the development of the asset management plan. So where are we? Currently, we are here at the renewal and replacement schedule task, which will lead us directly into the funding strategy. We have completed the levels of service and all the workshops, the asset registry, asset condition, remaining useful life, and business risk exposure analysis. So what are these tasks? We'll start with levels of service. Levels of service are basically the building blocks of the asset management plan. They set the standards or the objectives that the district wishes to achieve and helps guide us on ways we can monitor our progress towards achieving them. And if you see below here, these are actual examples of levels of service from other water utilities for reference and kind of give a little bit of context there. Next was the asset registry and fact sheets, and this is exactly as it sounds. It's just a detailed list of the district's assets. They can be physical assets, IT, digital, or operations-related assets such as equipment, vehicles, trucks, pumps, motors, things like that. And the purpose of the asset register, is to enable the district to know the status, procurement date, location, price, depreciation, and current value of each asset. After that was the asset condition and remaining useful life workshops. Using the district's maintenance history and condition assessment data, along with workshops including staff with in-depth system knowledge, asset condition, and remaining useful life were assigned by asset class. Examples of the asset classes were water mains and sewer mains and water tanks. And if you see below here, let me turn the laser pointer on. If you see below here, this table with the remaining useful life, these are actual numbers that were settled on for our asset management plan, and this is for water mains throughout the district. How you can read this is saying if this asset was put in the ground or this type of pipe was put in the ground today, this is how much life it would have left on it. Next was the business risk exposure exercises. And this is the measure of potential future losses resulting from specific activities or events. The exercise ranks risk by their likelihood of failure, and you multiply that by the consequence of failure, and that gives you your BRE, your business risk exposure number, and then that's plotted on the heat map here to show you where that asset class is, in severity. And if you see below here, this table here is the actual criteria that we use to assign consequence of failure for our assets. And so our staff in every operations department went through each asset and using these criteria assigned that number to it, and once that was assigned, we could put it on this heat map up here. Okay, so with these tasks completed, the current status of the project is to build the renewal and replacement schedule, and this will be based on all of our work to date, compared to industry standards, and forecasted out for 75 years. Once that's complete, with the R&R schedule built, a funding strategy will be developed using the district's current rate models, operating and CIP budgets. And as District Engineer Hubbard said, we are projected to have the draft asset management plan by the end of June and the final shortly after. On an after note, going through this exercise with our consultants, has highlighted improvements that would need to be made or implemented within our systems. A few of these are back-end information and data collection activities that we implemented in Maximo, and these including loading missing assets, such as gate valves that were not in there. Our fire hydrant gate valves were not loaded in there, so we didn't have the correct number of assets. We had got those loaded. And then expanding our specifications, which are the descriptors that were talked about in the asset registry, the procurement date, size, make, model, when it was installed, how much it cost, all of that for many of our assets. We're going through and updating and getting those cleaned up as well. And then on top of that, implementing new KPIs for the district so we can monitor our progress as well on our asset management.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, in addition to the benefits that the asset management plan is gonna provide the district, is as Eric said, there's all these side benefits that we're already gaining. I think there were 6,000 fire hydrant valves that weren't in our system that we identified. Going through these exercises, there's all these things that we're kind of finding. So now it's very splashy, not as exciting really, but there's a lot of this back end work that he and his team are working on, and it's going to provide benefits moving forward. So.
And where the committee and the board will really start interfacing with this is on that asset replacement and funding schedule. Because now we do a fairly good job through our master plan process on our new CIP based on growth and projections and kind of monitoring that in real time year after year if the growth actually occurs. But our replacement schedule is more done on an as-needed basis based on failure or based on operational knowledge. This will help guide the district, and also we'll be able to track things over time as we extend asset life through different things like condition assessment, and we extend asset life. So instead of replacing a pipe that is 90% of it's in good shape, spending some money doing a condition assessment, only replacing 10 or 15 or 20% of that pipe, and now you have much more extended asset life, which will obviously reduce costs to our ratepayers in the long run.
All right. So this presentation was for information only, and with that, I will end this portion and take any questions you may have.
No, good job, good job.
Will this give enough detail, I assume, to give finance enough information to know when to issue debt to pay for all this replacement?
It's been the way I've worked with Wes and our finance team is this will be one of the arrows in the quiver to make decisions on both debt financing and also if we need to make real changes to our reserve policy. Because now this will be more of a real-time, basically a living model that can be updated instead of just projections. So it'll be another projection. Instead of just a capital outlay projection, it'll be another projection that shows an outlay over a longer period of time. So yeah, how it gets used and how it gets, I think in the beginning it'll be taken as information, but over time as we start implementing our asset management plan and projects associated, they'll get more and more utilized and weighted to make those decisions. So long way of saying yes, not right away.
I imagine as time goes by, the magnitude of replacement is going to get a lot bigger than new facilities.
Yes, there will. We've already, some of the graphs on the replacement schedule have already come out, and I'm reviewing them, and they are going to be weighted in certain years just based off of, the factors that have been assigned for it. So there will be spikes in a few years that are high.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a fairly young agency with fairly new infrastructure, but if we wait, the timing's correct now. If we waited another 10, 15 years or longer to do a full asset management plan, we'd be behind the 8 ball and trying to play catch up.
And as Wes is always saying, we're trying to smooth it out, right? Trying to smooth it.
Good.
Smooth out the impact. So for a pipe network, how do you split it into large transmission mains versus local distribution piping to assign a risk and consequence of failure?
Yeah, there's several criteria.
Yeah, there are several criteria, like District Engineer Hubbard said, and that was one of them to be considered. For example, like consequence of failure if a main goes out on San Marcos Boulevard, which happened last year on the 14-inch.
Transmission, a large transmission versus
Exactly.
a local distribution.
Yeah, the consequence of that is much higher. There could be possibly, hospitals or schools out of water, which would be on the news.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the categories were very well laid out. I enjoyed being part of the process on making those decisions, and then left it to the team to wrestle and debate it with all the other staff. So, but they were able to get it done in fairly quick manner. I thought it would take twice as long or longer. So I was pretty impressed.
Operations was obviously involved.
Heavily involved.
Heavily, yeah. We would not have been able to assign the scores without their knowledge and their input.
Yeah, and that's that institutional knowledge we're trying to capture from them.
Yeah.
Because we know, of course, you know, silver tsunami, et cetera, you know, there's a replacement value of our employees, so how do we capture that? And this is really the way to capture from their perspective, what are those high priority pipelines? Where are they worried? Where is those high consequences?
Great, thanks.
All right.
Great. With that, I will move on to item 5, which is an update on the Tesla battery packs. Okay. All right. So the last update on this project was given, did it not go? There we go. There we go. Last update on this project was given at the end of 2021, so it has been a while. So we'll just do a brief update or review of the program, the sites that were selected, and the progress that we've made. Okay, so first we'll start with the background of the SCHIP program. It is an electric utility ratepayer funded program available to ratepayers throughout the state. The program is intended to help with peak load reductions, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and another benefit is to help build resiliency during power safety shutoff events. The batteries operate in 4 modes: peak shaving, which happens when the battery discharges partially at peak times to help offset the load coming in from the grid. Load shifting, where the battery would discharge heavily and almost take up all of the load during that peak times, shifting the demand to later in the day or later in the night when the peak loads or the peak times are over. Then obviously emergency backup provides backup power during times of grid interruptions, and demand response, which is discharge in response to state requests to alleviate strain on the grid. And I'm sure we all have lived through those summer days where they tell us not to run our AC, and it's one of the benefits of this program. So here, this slide just shows a couple examples of the battery packs that have been installed. So the top 2 are Double Peak Pump Station and Palos Vista Pump Station. These 2 sites have been fully installed, and we are awaiting PTO from SDG&E to kick them on. And then the bottom slide, or the bottom picture, is a representation of the battery packs and how the systems are designed. And they are designed in pods, and each pod consists of multiple plug-and-play battery packs that can be exchanged or upgraded or replaced in events of failure. So that provides a little bit of durability over time. Next slide shows the sites that were selected throughout the district. As you can see, there were 6 of them. Twin Oaks Reservoir, this site is still pending construction. Palos Vista Pump Station, which we just saw, was constructed, we're waiting PTO. Double Peak Pump Station has been constructed, awaiting PTO. San Alejo Pump Station has been constructed and PTO has been given. Meadowlark, we are waiting construction still. And then here at BWD Administration, or HQ, that site has been constructed and PTO has been given. Okay, this next slide shows each site, the installation or commissioning dates, the battery output, battery size, discharge duration, value, and projected savings over a 10-year period. And as you can see, 4 of the 6 sites have been installed while we are awaiting PTO on a couple of them. The other couple have been given PTO already, and the others are pending pre-construction here. Hopefully, we'll have that construction starting with the next month in those 2. Next, you'll see the battery output. This is the max output rating of the battery, the max put out at one time. Battery size, this is the max charging capacity of that battery, and discharge duration. This is basically just battery size divided by max output rating. That's how you get those numbers. And then battery value and energy cost savings. And again, this is projected over a 10-year period. And one thing to note is that these were projected using current rate models. And as we all know, rates do nothing but go up. So we can only assume that savings will just be a little bit more than what they are projected right there. And with that, This presentation was for information only, and I will end
How are
it
the batteries recharged?
on the grid.
On the grid?
Correct.
During lower expense times
Yes.
usually, right?
Correct.
Unless there's an emergency.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, the battery pack here at HQ, it charges from midnight until about 10 a.m. During the off-peak times, and
Yeah.
it discharges every day from 2 or 3 when peak starts until about 8 o'clock to help offset the power coming in off the grid.
Very good, very good.
Are we enrolled in any other demand response right now?
We were enrolled in a couple different response areas.
Like just shutting off pumps?
Yeah,
when asked?
Meadowlark was enrolled in I forgot what it's called, but it's where they ask us to go on the generator, but now we're no longer in that. Twin Oaks used to be, which caused a problem with our PPA. I forgot what that program was called. If you guys remember, you want to jump in? Community choice aggregate response, yeah. And then the only other thing we are enrolled in with SCGD is a savings by design program for, if we put in higher efficiency equipment, we get a little bit of rebate from them. That higher efficiency equipment's part of our standards anyway, so it made sense to be involved in that.
What kind of programs do you anticipate with charging stations for fleet?
Well, so we're gonna be moving forward with that probably next fiscal year with Terra Verde as a consultant. You guys have more information on that, right? But right now, the only thing I know about it is we have a scope for that to move forward. We're looking at, not only what we need to replace for his fleet, but what infrastructure we need to build, how much and when, timing and quantity for charging of that infrastructure.
Well, I imagine the utility's gonna have some kind of programs to support.
Yeah, right now,
Charging.
right now, they're all taxed, the current programs that they have are all, tax benefit programs, and we don't pay taxes. But we imagine there'll be some programs that are geared towards government agencies.
Yeah, that'll be part of their scope of the consultant to kind of,
Figure out what
Yep.
that's gonna look like.
exactly.
It's a bit early for us to really know.
Yeah.
We know our constraints at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think there's any other questions. And if that's the case, is there anything else for the good of the order? Let's go home.
All right,
Thank you.